When whipping up a cocktail at home, it's often hard to remember ratios. When you don't want to fumble for a cocktail book or your phone, an equal parts cocktail can save the day. It's just like it sounds. You add equal measures of each ingredient. So you just have to remember what goes into the drink. Luckily, most equal parts cocktails have less than 4 ingredients. In our lovely family tree today, we're going to talk about Negronis, last words, and some of their most popular siblings. Let's get shaking. These days, there are several riffs of a Negroni, but the Negroni itself is a riff of the Torino Milano. To speak biblically, the Torino Milano begat the Milano Torino, or Mito, which begat the Americano. As you might guess from these names, the Negroni and all those who came before it are Italian drinks. According to local legend, in 1919, Count Camillo Negroni asked bartender Fosco Scarselli to turn up the booze content on his beloved Americano. And just like that, soda water was out and gin was in. Too bad no one can agree on whether or not that's true, or if that guy even existed. There's one account where the Negroni was invented in Africa by a French general named Pascal Oliver Comte de Negroni. One thing that we know for certain is that the Italians got us to use an orange twist instead of a lemon twist by the late 1940s. Nowadays, it is considered sacrilege to put a lemon peel in a Negroni, unless it's white, that is. The white Negroni feels a little bit like an oxymoron. If you're familiar with Romance languages, you probably get that Negroni as a surname is referring to the color black or darkness in general. It could mean that someone had a dark complexion, or they could have just been a brunette. But even the bartenders know that blondes just have more fun. British bartender Wayne Collins invented the white Negroni in 2001, ditching Campari and sweet vermouth for Suze and Lillet Blanc. Suze, a gentian liqueur, can be just as polarizing as Campari, so most bars adjust the ratio to hide it. But if you can handle a classic Negroni, the white Negroni is a great way to switch it up. The original recipe called for a grapefruit twist, but lemon won the day when it came to this riff. Now with the Boulevardier, it's hard to say what's the riff of what, but think of a Boulevardier as 1920 slang for a man about town, and that's just what Erskine Gwynn, nephew of a Vanderbilt, was. He published a magazine called Boulevardier for expats living in Paris, and frequented Harry Macalone's bar, which was called Harry's New York Bar. We love simple marketing. When Harry wrote his cocktail book, Barflies and Cocktails in 1927, he credited Erskine as the Boulevardier's creator. Sitting squarely between a Negroni and a Manhattan, many cowards bump up the whiskey content. But if you have a whiskey that can stand up to the Campari, you have nothing to worry about. Speaking of not worrying about a thing, the Kingston Negroni brings rum into the picture, which always makes every little thing all right. In 2009, Joaquin Simo created a modern classic within 5 minutes of being handed a bottle of Smith & Cross rum. In a way, it's a little bit of an aggressive drink. Every part of it is vying for your attention. The funky, overproof Jamaican rum can stand up to the rich, bitter Campari, and it's a rare case where Carpano Antica doesn't totally steal the show in a Negroni. But the resulting symphony is probably the most palatable of the equal parts Negroni riffs. But that's enough of that. Let's get to the last word. A classic cocktail that generally remains unchanged more than 100 years later. She said what she said. She was done. This is a rare equal parts cocktail where pretty much everyone agrees that it's perfectly balanced. The first last word was presumably gulped down at the Detroit Athletic Club around 1915. It's said to have been created by Frank Fogarty, a popular vaudeville entertainer at the time who frequented the club. After Prohibition, Ted Saucier immortalized the equal parts drink in the 1950s cocktail book. Thanks to that, bartenders like Murray Svensson and Audrey Saunders could revive the recipe in the early 2000s. Speaking of Audrey, one of her proteges, Sam Ross, dared to push the needle on what many believed to be a perfect drink. by making a new drink entirely, the paper plane. Each ingredient of the last word is cleverly swapped out to achieve another exceptionally balanced cocktail. The original recipe used Campari instead of Aperol, but Sam quickly fine-tuned it before its debut at Chicago's Violet Hour in 2008. It works best using Amaro no Nino, but subbing in a different Amaro creates a lot of room to play. But why is it called a paper plane? Because while the MIA banger Paper Planes was putting the final nail in the coffin of her relationship with Diplo, it was also being played absolutely everywhere. A drink of the summer for the song of the summer, a perfect pair. But the true miraculous union here is marrying a paper plane with a last word, with a smoky twist. The Naked and Famous arrived at Death & Company in 2011 thanks to a friend we already met in the Negroni part of this family. Joaquin Simo is back with an even bigger swing. Lime juice from the last word, Aperol from the paper plane. He opts for the gentler yellow chartreuse instead of green. A now nearly impossible bottle to get a hold of. Don't ask what I had to do for this bottle. Anyway, the star of the show here is mezcal. The louder, the better. On the quieter side of things, we find a rum riff of the last word. Now, there's not that much we actually know about the wordsmith, which is strange considering millions listened to its creator, Chuck Taggart. For 2 decades, he was a radio DJ at LA's KCRW. He was also a mixology hobbyist who created this herbaceous daiquiri in 2009. Designer Dave Stolte gave the drink its name and featured it in his cocktail book, Home Bar Basics. You probably know Dave best for designing the menu and merch at Disneyland's exclusive Club 33. For those who don't know, Club 33 is basically a private membership club that grants you access to these luxurious restaurants and bars that are hidden in Disney resorts. Allegedly, it can cost at least 25 grand to get in, and people are actually pretty tight-lipped about it, so who knows? Now, the last word is already a pretty boozy drink, so subbing in a rum this strong should be approached with caution. Now, like all cocktails, you can dial in an equal parts drink to suit your fancy. You might turn down the volume on the Campari in a Negroni, or turn up the chartreuse in your last word. At the end of the day, you're the one who has to drink it. Cheers.